Later the same day, we see Mercury opposing Jupiter. This is interesting because they enter into this aspect to one another naturally in what's called the Thema Mundi, which is a kind of natural chart for thinking about astrology from a theoretical perspective. Naturally in this chart, Mercury and Jupiter are happiest in signs that are opposite from one another. So Mercury is really happy in Gemini, which is opposite from Sagittarius, where Jupiter is happiest. And then there's another set, which are actually square to one another, where Mercury is super happy because it's in domicile and exaltation in the sign of Virgo. And then we've got opposite from Virgo, we've got Jupiter in Pisces, and Jupiter in Pisces is really happy. So when we think about oppositions, we normally think of them as difficult aspects. And in the Thema Mundi, this theoretical chart that would make like a perfect chart, every planet has a planet that it's opposed to, because we put a planet in a sign, a house sort of, and every planet gets a sign and house that they're happiest in. And so therefore, you know, we've got planets that are naturally in difficult aspects too. So for example, besides Mercury and Jupiter, the sun is happiest in the sign of Leo, where it can shine. You know, Leo's the summer, we get like the most sunlight. And then Leo's opposite from Aquarius, where Saturn is really happy. Saturn's all about like restriction, and in Aquarius, it's kind of like scientific and, you know, it's about structures. But you know, and some people don't like it when they've got Saturn opposite their sun. It's kind of uncomfortable. It's like someone coming in and saying, slow down, or don't do that, or have you done the hard work yet? And the sun is just like, I'm just going to shine and be me, right? But some people like it too, you know? So I don't think oppositions necessarily have to be very negative, especially when we're talking about Mercury and Jupiter, because Mercury is a trickster. And Jupiter is what we call the greater benefic. It's beneficial, benefic. So I can't help but think that it's kind of like, yeah, it could be difficult or something could go wrong somehow. But it's also kind of like when two actors or comedians put on an act pretending to argue, and then there's a punchline at the end. So with this energy, we have the ability to see the details of both sides with Mercury and Libra, and the ability to see the big picture about ourselves with Jupiter and Aries. We also have the ability to have conversations with other people to share feedback about the details about who we are and how we show up in the world, and remind us that we are a blessing in other people's lives just by being who we are. And that could lead us to having more confidence, which is a Jupiter thing, in ourselves, which is sort of like an Aries energy. Now, y'all know I've been an HR person, and I'll be honest, I do not like employee reviews. But with this disseminating moon, this third quarter moon that's losing light, and with Mercury and Jupiter both retrograde, I think this energy actually helps us to reflect on the past, not be so harsh, because we just don't have a lot of energy. We're like, all right, time to chill. And find a way to share information so that it's a blessing and a gift that is well received by another person. On a societal level, Mercury opposite Jupiter gets into the details about what is a fair share for you and what's a fair share for me and for all of us. It shines a light on the big bosses that pull the big bucks and say, you know, to the people who are on the ground who do all the work, like these people are going to be like, hey, what's fair is fair. We have the numbers, we have the details, and we're ready to talk about making sure we're still getting a fair deal, because that's what Mercury does. The next two aspects over the next 2 days that will build on this story that we've already started to see with this threat of the railroad strike that's happening in the United States. And the railroad strike is so archetypally on point because Jupiter is all about long distance travel and Mercury is about short distance travel. And what is a train? It's kind of both. It can make these local short distance stops, but it can go very long distances.